Whenever I do these recap of these instant classic matches in MLS, usually two things happen that makes these matches instant classic. It's either a special occasion or it's a game where there is a ton of goals. And in this game between the Red Bulls versus the Galaxy, it was both. Not only this game featured 9 goals in it, but it was a special occasion as this marks the first ever start for David Beckham. Now, for the Red Bulls coming into this game and their starting 11, they had Ronald Wateres, Chris Leach, Jeff Park, Seth Steimer, and Hunter Freeman as their defender. Obviously, some of the most recognizable name is Chris Leach, who is currently the Quakes technical director. But I think a lot of people didn't know that he was with the Red Bulls before he retired and joined the Quakes as the technical director. Then we have Dave Vanderbilt, Clint Mathis, Joe Vatney, and Dane Richards as your midfield for the Red Bulls. And going up top, you have Juan Pablo Angel and Josie Altidore. And this was back when Josie Altidore was still starting his career before he moved to Europe and then come back to MLS and join with TFC. Now, on the substitute bench, we had John Conway, Kevin Gofuit, Claudio Reyna, which I was kind of surprised why Claudio Reyna was on the sub because he's considered one of the more well-known player in MLS and one of the more better player in MLS, and the fact that he was on the substitute bench was kind of a little bit of a surprise. Then we got Cincia, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that last name because, yeah, it is impossible to pronounce that last name, and I don't want to even attempt it, or else it's just going to be very, very bad. Now, the substitute that came on in this was John Winich, Carlos Mendez, and Mike McGee as the free sub that came on for the Red Bulls. Now, for the Galaxy, in terms of their starting 11, there are a couple of well-known names. First well-known name is Joe Cannon, and yes, Joe Cannon did play for the Galaxy, but the good thing about Joe Cannon, unlike Landon Donovan when he decided to be a bit of a traitor to the Quakes, is he decided to come back to the Quakes, and I think this was the last year when Joe Cannon was playing with the Galaxy until he went back to the Quakes. And, Joe Cannon actually had a pretty good year for the Galaxy, and in some way you could say that if it wasn't for Joe Cannon, their goal allow record in 2007 would be something similar to what we saw in the past couple of years, because this was a time when the Galaxy was literally like today's, where their defense was just completely crap. Then we got Chris Klein, Ante Yazik, Mike Randolph, and Ty Harden as your defender for this team. In midfield, we of course have David Beckham, Landon Donovan, Kyle Martino, and Kevin Harmes as your midfielder. Then going up forward, we got Alan Gordon, who of course was with the Galaxy for a bit before going to the Quakes, and then going back to the Galaxy before retiring with I think the Chicago Fire or the Rapids. Either of those teams was his final year with or his final year in MLS. And then we of course finish off with Carlos Pavon, which don't get confused with Christian Pavon, who is currently the forward for the Galaxy. Now, on the substitute bench, we got Steve Cronin, Kobe Jones, Peter Vegas, and Josh Twidier as your substitute. Substitute that came on into this game, Gavin Glinton, Edison Budo, and Kyle Veras as your substitute that came on for the Galaxy. This game takes place on August 18, 2007, and I actually didn't write down where exactly they were in the table. The Red Bulls, I believe they were in third place of the Eastern Conference, and eventually they did make it to the playoffs that year before getting knocked out in the first round by New England. Well, the Galaxy did miss the playoffs, so the Galaxy, throughout the season, even though they had David Beckham and that he kind of steered the ship a little bit, it was still not enough to get them to the playoffs because their defense was absolutely garbage, and that was one of the biggest reason why they couldn't really get to the playoffs that season. And it's also one of the rare season that the Galaxy did not make it to the playoffs, because I think the very next year they would get back into the playoffs. The venue of this game was Giants Stadium, which was the old Meadowlands complex, and this was actually the home for the Red Bulls for a very long time. And I know throughout the broadcast they talk about how how they were they the Red Bulls playing at Giant Stadium was obviously awful because with the way that they were playing in a cavernous stadium and the fact that the turf of that stadium was just absolutely awful. And they keep talking about how, yes, the Red Bulls are in a bad situation right now. And also they mentioned how the Red Bulls they're one of the team that is struggling in terms of attendance. Well, a lot of that has to do with the location of where Giant Stadium is, which is like nowhere near New York, and it's really hard to get to. And the fact that they also mentioned that despite the fact that they're in this bad situation, at least they are going to be looking forward to their new home coming up. Little do they know that I think when they mentioned how they were going to be enjoying their new home, where they thought that they were going to move into Red Bull Arena back in 2008. Yeah, it didn't happen until 2010. So the Red Bulls were stuck at Giant Stadium for a couple more years, and I think they were stuck right up to the year when Giant Stadium was about to be demolished to basically in way of a new Giant Stadium, which is now called MetLife Stadium, just across from the parking lot. So yeah, this was still back in the old Meadowlands, and it's not the new MetLife Stadium and the new shiny stadium there in East Rutherford. The kickoff of this game was 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and the attendance 66,237 people, which was back then the highest attended game in any MLS regular season matchup. The background of this game, as I said, this is Beckham's first ever MLS start, but a lot of people kind of got confused that this was actually his first appearance with the Galaxy. This wasn't actually his first appearance, or at least in MLS, because he did come off as a substitute against DC United on August 9th, and I think he also started with the Galaxy in what it was used to be called the Superliga that doesn't exist anymore, and he also scored a goal and an assist in those games. So technically he's been with the Galaxy for a while, and if you really want to go back to when he actually made his first appearance with the Galaxy in all competition, that was back in July when when the Galaxy was playing against Chelsea in an exhibition match, and he made his first ever appearance off the substitute bench also. So yeah, don't get confused. The fact that this was actually his first MLS appearance, it was actually the first MLS start and the first time that he actually went the full 90 minutes. And I know the broadcast even talk about how they were kind of surprised the fact that he went the full 90 minutes because he was also nursing with a little bit of a leg injury, and that they thought that he was probably going to be subbed off near the second half of the game. But knowing how crazy this game went, I think that is the reason why he did not get subbed off, and that he was still in this game and eventually play the full 90 minutes. Speaking of crazy, this is probably going to be one of the craziest recap I am going to do. Like, if you thought the recap where the Quakes make that incredible comeback against the Galaxy back in the 2003 MLS Western Conference first round matchup, you haven't seen this one, because this was just kind of some high octane kind of just no defense whatsoever, and kind of a very FIFA-esque kind of matchup with how both teams play in this game. And as I mentioned, 66,237 people attended this match, which was back then the largest MLS attendance, but obviously now it's not the biggest MLS attendance in a regular season game, because you have a team down the south called Atlanta United decided to build an even bigger stadium. Well, not really a bigger stadium, but attract even more fans that the Red Bulls did when they play against the Galaxy and had this Beckham showcase, and they attract like 70,000 people on 9 out of the 10 occasion when they fill up that stadium. So yeah, Atlanta obviously now owns all the record in terms of attendance, but back then this was something that was kind of very unusual and kind of something that, when you have that many people attend the game, a lot of people felt like this game wasn't just any regular season game. This felt like it was an MLS Cup, and even the broadcast team mentioned a couple of times where it doesn't felt like a regular season game. It felt like it was an MLS Cup. It felt like the fans, of course, was there to really enjoy the game. Now, at the same time, talking about the fans itself, I bet 80% of the fans there wasn't really there to cheer on the Red Bulls, but more they were just cheering on or just there to want to get a glimpse of David Beckham, because I saw a lot of Real Madrid shirt in that crowd, and I also saw a lot of different European shirt in there, and I barely saw any Red Bulls shirts in there, which makes sense because you're not going to, like, this team, as I mentioned before, is used to struggle in terms of filling the stand, and they still struggle in terms of filling their new stadium that they built a couple back in 2010. So you're not going to all of a sudden get that many people and expect all those Red fans are going to be Red Bulls fan, and that this was just a big attendance because they want to get a glimpse of David Beckham and want to see him how he played in his first ever game. Now, this is where we start to talk about what actually happens in this game, and yeah, buckle your seatbelt, boys and girls, because things are going to get very crazy in the next 10 minutes or so when I recap this game. So, just 10 seconds into this game, the Galaxy almost conceded after a bad back pass. I mean, I think one of their defenders decided to make a weak back pass, and if it wasn't for Joe Cannon able to early come off his lines, one of the Red Bull player would have just snatched it and rounds the keeper and probably score one, if not the fastest goal ever in MLS history back then. And then in the third minute, Ty Harden should have been sent off by bringing Altidore, who was the last man. And again, just like when I did the recap video where I talked about the Quakes and the Galaxy and how I forgot which player should have been sent off in the first half, but one of the Galaxy defenders should have been sent off in the first half, have it not for the Quakes score. Well, this time it was just blatantly that Ty Harden, the Galaxy defender, clearly should have been sent off in this, because there is no way in the world, if you decided to bring down the last man and commit a denial of goal score opportunity, that should be just a yellow card. So Ty Harden was very lucky to get away with just a yellow card in that instant. Now, on that same foul, the Red Bulls got a free kick, which Juan Pablo Angel was able to bury it. He actually decided to go low and basically go under the wall with his shot, which was very clever. Joe Cannon, he did get a hand to it. You could argue maybe he could have done a little bit better, but it looked like when that ball was driven low and kind of go under the wall, it did kind of took a little bit of a deflection, which kind of fooled Joe Cannon a little bit. So yeah, I'm not going to really kind of blame him, even though most of the time when you see a goalkeeper gets a hand to a ball, you kind of usually say that they probably could have done a little bit better in that situation. But again, back in that situation, I think the deflection just kind of fooled him a little bit, and he was kind of a little bit late off his lines trying to save that one. So the Red Bulls have a 1-0 lead up to that point, but that lead lasts as quick as how this game actually went, because just six minutes or just 2 minutes later in the 6th minute, Carlos Pavón, which scored to tie the game up, and David Beckham was the player that got the assist. This one was coming from a corner, which Pavón was able to head it in. Set pieces was basically the weapon for the Galaxy in the first part of this game. I mean, the Red Bulls had no answer in terms of trying to deal with the set piece, and all those 66,000 fans want to see Beckham not only score but also put a beautiful delivery and put a ball onto the play of the box. Well, they got their money's worth in this game by seeing that, and they saw it again just 2 minutes later, because it would be Pavón once again scoring with Beckham providing the second assist. This time it didn't came from a corner, but instead came on a free kick, which once again Beckham puts an absolute delicious play right onto the back post, which Pavón easily slots it home. I mean, Pavón, at the same time, you could kind of argue how in the world did he get wide open, and how in the world did the Red Bulls not decided to clearly mark him after what they just saw happen 2 minutes later. But let's not talk about defense in this game, because there was virtually none of them in this game. Now, after the second goal was scored from the Galaxy to turn this game on its head, there was some pushing and after Beckham hit the deck off of a hard sliding challenge. One of the Red Bulls player basically decided to wipe Beckham out, and I guess that is a tackle that was kind of like a more welcome to your first MLS start, and kind of just one that just kind of rowdy up the crowd even more than what we have already seen this game. I mean, this game was already off the rail in terms of how the first 10 minutes has gone. And thank goodness in the 14th minute, and I know this sounds bad, but when Ante Yazic actually went down, which was a very bad news for the Galaxy because he was considered one of their better defender, and I think ever since Yazic actually was stretcher off, their defense just completely unraveled in this game, and there was just no sorts of organization in their back line. But in some way, in kind of a blessing in disguise, at least it give us some leeway to kind of catch our breath of what we saw in the first 14 minutes of this game. Like, this game was going like 200 miles per hour. There was like action left, right, and right, and it just feel like we need to have a little bit briefer before we can continue this game and kind of look what happened. Because, you know, the other thing that was good, the fact that we kind of had the stoppage, is that after this there wasn't really kind of a time to kind of gather your thoughts and kind of just see a time where things kind of calm down until late in the game, because from the rest of the way we are back on the roller coaster ride. So in the 20th minute, Gordon was denied by Waterroos as the Red Bull struggling dealing with set piece. Again, Beckham delivered a beautiful ball into the box, but Gordon unfortunately was denied by Waterroos. And by the way, both of the goalkeeper, I know both of the goalkeeper conceded a total of 9 goals in this game, but if it wasn't for some good goalkeeping, which there was definitely some in this game could have ended like 7-6 or 8-7 with the way how crazy it is. In fact, the first half, with how much chances that both team has, I was kind of surprised the fact that the first half ended just 2-2. I mean, it could have been like 4-4 or 5-5 as we heading into the first half if it wasn't for a couple of great goalkeeping saved by both goalkeeper. The game, of course, was back and forth with golden opportunity on both ends. Oh, I forgot to even mention in the 31st minute. Speaking of good goalkeeping, Angel was robbed of an equalizer when Pavone, of course, cleared off the line. And even though it wasn't Joe Cannon that saved the shot, Pavone with kind of act almost like a goalkeeper to kind of clear this one off the line after Angel tried to hit it onto the volley and tried to tie the game up at 2 apiece for the Red Bulls. And as I mentioned, the game was just back and forth with golden opportunity for both ends. And it was seen in the 37th minute when Pavone almost got his hat trick, where he kind of did like a crush kind of shot, which is a combination of a cross and a shot attempt, where he decided to chip one near the top left of the corner, almost caught Water there, but unfortunately it went wide. And then literally a minute later, Angel was robbed again. This time it was just an incredible save from Joe Cannon, which wasn't the most incredible save that he made in the game. That, of course, would happen a couple of minutes later. But before that, on the other end, Donovan almost gave the Galaxy a 3-1 lead when he went around Walderis, but couldn't put it in a tight angle. And then just 2 minutes later, this was the other incredible save that Cannon made. And I argue this one is even more, as I said, I argue this one is even more impressive to the one that he saved over Angel, because Altidore absolutely got a free header out of this. I mean, it was just a point-blank effort that 9 out of 10 times that one was going to end up into the back net. But Cannon, with just some cat-like reflexes to keep that one out, despite the fact that Altidore just kind of headed in wide open from about 5 yards out. And that, of course, at that moment kept the game at 2-1 in favor of the Galaxy. But eventually that equalizer did came in. As much as Joe Cannon made some incredible save, he couldn't stop one right before halftime when Clint Mathis absolutely hit a bullet off the volley. I mean, I said it was an absolute rocket of a volley. It really was. Like, that ball must have traveled at least 100 miles per hour the way that he hits it. And even if Joe Cannon would have get a hand to it, I don't think he would have even saved that with the way that how hard that ball would hit. Like, it just flew into the back of the net as fast as that this game was taking place. And just like that, the game was all tied up at 2 apiece as we head to halftime, where, you know how earlier I said that we didn't really have any moment besides the injury to Ante Yazik to kind of just calm ourselves down in terms of how exciting the game is. Well, the intermission time during halftime was the other situation, or the other time when we can kind of calm ourselves down and just kind of try to reflect what we saw in the first half of how crazy things was going to get. Because in the second half, we once again saw more crazy thing happen, and it was almost like the game never really stopped from going from 200 miles per hour. Because straight from the kickoff, Pavone was actually brought down in the box, and there was no penalty kick awarded. I have no idea why this was not a penalty, because it was clear that Pavone was dragged down by one of the Red Bulls defender, but apparently the referee decided not to give a penalty, and this just shows an example that, yeah, referee back then in 2007 is just as bad as the refereeing it is right now. And you could even argue that the refereeing back in 2007 is even worse, because, as I said, the referee probably should have sent off Ty Harden earlier from bringing down Altidore when Altidore was the last man. And then the Galaxy, of course probably should have got a penalty when Pavone was brought down in the box. But I guess maybe because of the fact that this one kind of went against the Red Bulls with them probably should have been up a man, and the fact that one kind of went against the Galaxy, it kind of evens out in terms of both team was getting some unfair kind of call. Now, just 3 minutes later, Josie Altidore would give the Red Bulls a 3-2 lead. I almost forgot that they score an equalizer right before the stroke of halftime because of the way that Cannon was making some incredible save. But eventually, the Red Bulls did retake the lead when Josie Altidore was able to score to make it 3-2. And then after that, the Red Bulls really start to surge for that fourth goal, and the Galaxy defense was just on the ropes with the way that they were defending. And if it wasn't for Joe Cannon and the Red Bulls weren't really showing as much of a clinical finishing during that surge, this could have been at least a 4-2 lead for the Red Bulls, and the Red Bulls could have scored very quickly after they took the lead. Now, in the 56th minute, Gordon probably should have got the equalizer, but somehow, in some way, he missed a 6-yard tap in. And I like how the broadcaster says that, Gordon, not only he made a bad miss, but Landon Donovan is pretty much staring down the face of Gordon. And it's not really a stare that is kind of like a happy stare, but more like a very mean stare. The fact that Landon Donovan, with some unselfish plays to play it back to the middle, and I have no idea how in the world did Alan Gordon did not tap that one in from 6 yards out to tie the game up at 3 apiece. Now, 14 minutes later, Josie Altidore would score another goal into this game and give the Red Bulls a 4-2 lead up into that point. And this was a great solo effort where he basically just cuts in to the outside and just pretty much hits it off his back foot to put it into the back of the net. And just like that, the Red Bulls have a 4-2 lead, and you think, yeah, it's over. I mean, I don't think the Galaxy is going to come back from this. No. Instead, in the 71st minute, Landon Donovan would give the Galaxy a lifeline and give them back into the game. And this was literally scored 51 seconds after Altidore scored. Like, I think the Red Bulls was just so excited the fact that they were leading in this game, and that I also heard that the announcers say because of how crazy this game is, there wasn't really a lot of game management in this game. And I do agree with them. I mean, game management alongside with defending was pretty much non-existent in this game, because they literally just gave up a goal straight from the kickoff from the Galaxy. I mean, Landon Donovan basically just went through everybody on that Red Bulls defense that looked like they were still kind of hungover from celebrating that fourth goal that they scored. And just like that, the Galaxy were back within a goal, and they really started to press for the equalizer as the Red Bulls were kind of sitting back a little bit. And eventually, the Galaxy do get that equalizer in the 82nd minute when Edson Bodo, who came off the bench just a couple of minutes before, scored the equalizer to tie the game up at 4 apiece. And you think, wow, we have seen everything in this game. But are we going to see a late goal winner to just make this even a more instant classic than it should be? You betcha, because in the 88th minute, Juan Pablo Angel would score to give the Red Bulls the lead once again. Originally, Cannon absolutely robbed Mathis with another spectacular save, but unfortunately, he pushed that one right to Angel, who was able to score from the rebound and hits it into the empty net. And just like that, the Red Bulls would get a 5-4 lead, and that was really the last action of what has just been one of the craziest MLS games that I've ever seen. Like, you know, even though I didn't see this game live, when I saw the kind of the recap and just the full match of this game yesterday, I couldn't believe how crazy this game was. And you know, this was just a seesaw affair from both of these teams, where both of these teams, they just not only want to impress the fans, but also they just want to put a show. I mean, you know, obviously at the end of the night, this might be a game that we'll remember as David Beckham's first ever MLS start, but I think this will also be a game where both teams decided to kind of give zero fucks about defending and just want to put on an absolute bombardment of a show to their fans, and that is the reason why the scoreline ended 5-4 like this. Now, as I mentioned before, the good thing is, after when Juan Pablo Angel got that late goal, things did eventually kind of calm down, and I'm not quite sure is it because of the fact that both team was just tired, or the fact that both team are kind of absolutely spent with the performance that both team has put. But the last 5 minutes was perhaps the calmest time, and kind of like the epilogue and kind of the resolution of what has just been a crazy Hollywood script kind of game it is. And the fans also started to leaving after the 9th goal of the game score, which, you know, I know people are probably thinking, how in the world does fans start to leaving after they saw such an instant classic game? Well, to their defense, as I mentioned earlier, 80% of these fans was probably here to see David Beckham and wasn't actually there to see the Red Bulls play. And since this game was taking place at Giant Stadium, a stadium that is incredibly hard to get to, a lot of those people probably are beating the traffic. Consider 60,000 people were showing up in this game, so that's why the fans started to leave early. Nowadays, you probably will not see this, and if you see this, I'm pretty sure the MLS Reddit will just absolutely make fun of the team that have fans start to leaving, even when their team just scored the 5th goal and won this instant classic. But bear in mind, this was back when most of the fans don't really care who won in this game. They're just there to see David Beckham, and maybe as an extra special, they might see an instant classic game like this one, which they also got to do. But yeah, there you have it. That is pretty much it for my recap of one of the craziest MLS game you have ever seen, and the recap of the first ever game, or the first ever MLS start for David Beckham. I almost said this was his first ever game, but as I mentioned, he has started in, or he has appeared for the Galaxy just 10 days ago with DC United, and that was the first appearance with him. And I'm hoping in that game they might show a recap of that, because that would also consider an instant classic moment, consider that kicked off the Beckham era as we know now. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash that subscribe button. Let me know in the comments below, have you actually watched this game or even attended this game, and what was your feeling attend this game with the way how surreal this game actually play out. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.